So I just got into cycling about 1 month ago. So this is my very first gravel bike. Although I might argue that like 20 plus years ago, I had a mountain bike that looked just like this. But I digress. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the most surprising things that I found as a beginner cyclist. So let's get into it. By far, the most surprising thing for me has been the increase of appetite. Now, I'm generally already a pretty active guy. I go to the gym 2-3 days a week. At least like once a month, I'll do like a hike that's like 5 or 6 hours long. During the snow season, I tend to go up to the snow at least once a month, sometimes like 4 or 5 times a month. So I'm already used to being active and having a pretty decent appetite. But cycling has definitely been by far one of like the biggest differences affecting my appetite recently, specifically with like carbohydrates, so noodles, pasta, rice, and bread. So one of the other very surprising things for me as a beginner cyclist or coming back into biking is I remember when I was back in college about 20 years ago, and I got on my friends' bikes who were riding these road bikes, and I just remember feeling like how absurd it was that, the pressures were so high and it was so uncomfortable. And it was just, I guess, having been used to a mountain bike, was really not used to such skinny road tires. And so seeing the trend coming around now to wider, fatter tires is pretty interesting, because I'm pretty sure back, 20 years ago, people were really convinced that, higher pressure, narrow tires were absolutely the way to get as fast as you want to go. But all of that's kind of been flipped on its head. And so I find that just fascinating overall. So with that, my bike does actually allow me to run, maybe about 53 millimeters, which I think is plenty for my use case for right now. But yeah, it's pretty great having a gravel bike that allows me to go decently fast on the road, but also allows me to tackle some off-road terrain. Third thing that has been really surprising to me about cycling and biking is that everything is a compromise in terms of like weight savings, money savings, performance gains. Everything is a compromise from one or the other. How you decide like how important weight is to you, how important being aero is to you, I think that's like pretty subjective. I personally don't see myself getting into like Lycra or wearing clipless anytime in the near future or foreseeable future. But who knows, I'm certainly open to experimenting with things as I get further into this sport. But along with that, for me, I guess I've realized that a lot of being aero is just simply more so about your own body positioning, So for me, I guess I really like experimenting with how to position myself on my flat bar handlebars. So I've got like various like bar ends and stubs and nubs that I'm looking to experiment with. And I think that was pretty surprising to me, like how fascinated I would be about, exploring the different kinds of hand positions on flat bars, because I'm just not into drop bars myself, and I think I do prefer sort of the handling or the aggressive handling of like a mountain bike type handlebar. So along with that, I've decided that as far as like a ride feel or experience, I've decided that I want to prioritize like having fun, being comfortable. So I don't really mind like the extra weight of trying on these different like bar ends and stubs, heavier grips, thicker grips that would just perhaps feel a little bit more comfortable to me being on the road, even if I don't plan on logging on the high miles, just because I'm still pretty recreational, so I just really want to be comfortable while I'm out having a good time. Okay, and lastly, what's been pretty surprising to me is that bike fit is absolutely everything and paramount. And you should absolutely take your time and figure out what size frame you need if you're in between frames. Try to get all the knowledge about like standover height, reach. These kinds of numbers can end up being pretty big, at least in helping you not to regret it. As for my own case, I was basically in between two different sizes. So traditionally, I've always been, I guess, like not a fan of my friends' bikes, even when they're my size and my height. I guess I just have short legs, you know, so my inseam has always just been shorter, and so a extra small frame actually fits me better, I think. But I think it's kind of like snowboarding, you know, whereas with snowboarding, I'm also kind of between sizes, you know, so I could ride like 153 centimeter board or 156. Currently ride a 153 just because I prefer being a bit more nimble and snappy, being able to get around turns just a little bit faster. And so I think that personality kind of applies for me on a bike as well, you know. Theoretically, both the extra small and the small should both fit me. Characteristic, I guess, would just be similar that a larger frame is just going to give you more stability at speed. Something that has a shorter wheelbase is then going to be a bit more twitchy and a bit more nimble. So I decided to size down. It was actually a pretty hard choice for me because the larger size actually had all of the upgrades that I would probably care for. However, you know, I think when I kind of sat down and thought about it, you know, it was actually really hard because both bikes actually felt they felt very comparable, you know. So this extra small frame here performed very similarly to me as a larger bike, you know. But I think what that kind of meant to me was that, you know, this smaller frame, not only does it fit me better, suit my personality better right now for being a bit more nimble, it would just make me more excited. And it has actually made me a lot more excited to ride. I think in the past, just because my legs were shorter, it just felt like I was just never that comfortable on a size small bike, even though I was within that size range. It just always felt like it was designed for somebody taller than me. Actually being on a smaller frame bike, especially with the 650B wheels, I think has really made a huge difference in my level of interest and enjoyment of cycling overall. So a bonus, sort of like surprising fact to me as a new cyclist is just overall seeing the bike industry in decline. I think it is actually a little bit fascinating that I'm getting into this sport, as I guess a lot of people think that the bike industry is hurting, and there's data that shows that it's hurting pretty bad right now. But yeah, I just find that fascinating to be just getting into the sport and the lifestyle at this current moment. So anyways, that's it for now. Please let me know what you guys think about the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care. Peace.